Hi everyone, I'm Edwin. I'm from EduEdge. I used to be an English teacher with secondary schools for more than 6 years, and I was also a private tutor for more than 10 years. I was previously holding the appointment as subject head of curricular innovations, as well as the head of department for English language. What I'd like to share with you today is some very critical information. What is new in the new English syllabus and how it will greatly impact your child's grades. Right? What these changes entail, who are the parties that will be affected? Firstly, of course, is MOE, because they are the initiators of the change. Schools are affected by the change as well because of the new syllabus. They have to change the way they teach and engage your children. At the same time, naturally, your children will be affected as well. And of course, we're talking about tutors from the private industry. Now, so you may ask, what is exactly new and different in this new English syllabus? First of all, take a look over here. Now, under the new English syllabus, what you see, there are actually 4 paper components. Paper 1 being writing, Paper 2 is comprehension, Paper 3 listening, Paper 4 oral. Now, what is different from this new syllabus as compared to the old syllabus? That is the additional of a new paper, what we call the Paper 3 listening. Previously, there were only 3 papers. At the same time, you notice that if you add Paper 3 and Paper 4 together, both of them actually make up 30% of the whole assessment. Now, what this means for your child is that listening and speaking skills now take a more critical role than ever before, and they play a part in how they will affect your child's grades.
Right, and parents think about it now. For most students, they will be asking, what do I need to do to pass my English, or what can I do to secure a distinction in English? The game plan is fairly simple. You want to ensure that for Paper 3 and Paper 4, out of the maximum possible 30%, you want to score as high as possible. Now, let's have a hypothetical situation where a student actually achieves 30% from Paper 3 and Paper 4. Now, what is required to pass is basically just an additional 20%. And this 20% is going to come from Paper 1 and Paper 2. Now, 20% out of the possible maximum of 70%. What this means is even if the student does not pass Paper 1 and Paper 2, they will still pass the whole entire English examination, right? Now, if a student wants to get their distinctions, they want to get an A. Now, distinctions under the O-level syllabus, that will be 75% and above. So all they require is just a mere 45% out of 70% to be able to secure their distinctions. Right? So in basic mathematical terms, the game plan, students should strategize and score as high as possible for Paper 3 and Paper 4. Now, at the same time, you may be wondering, so what is new in Paper 1 and Paper 2, right? In Paper 1 and Paper 2, there is something that we call the visual text. Now, what exactly is a visual text? Now, let me show all of you. What I have here is actually the new syllabus guideline from MOE. These are the sample exam papers. What you see here is an example of a visual text. Now, why is it called visual text? Previously, when we think of the word text, we tend to think of it in terms of words. Now, however, in the 21st century, with the advent of the internet and new media, text has taken on a new meaning altogether. When we say text these days, it's no longer just limited to words. It includes visuals and the interplay of words and how these two work together to create meaning. Alright, so for Paper 1, there is this inclusion of visual text, and students are actually expected to write perhaps an email, a report, or speech on a visual text taken from an authentic source, such as brochures, advertisements, or posters. Alright, same thing for Paper 2, there is a visual text. So for comprehension, they will typically ask the child questions based on the visual text. Why is this particular word or phrase used, for instance? Okay, now, what else is new in Paper 1, you may ask? There is also this component because many parents have highlighted concerns, including employers, saying that some of their employees do not really have good grammar. So MOE has heard your concerns, so they decided to bring back the explicit teaching of grammar. So what you see here is an example of a language editing task that is featured in Paper 1. Alright, so what they have here is a text of not more than 250 words, and in each line there is a grammatical error that your child is expected to pick up. Now, this error could be related to tenses, verb formations, prepositions, so on and so forth. Alright, so At the same time, for paper one of the very important thing I'd like to highlight to you is that there is a move away from what we call narrative writing, all right? Or perhaps some of you will be more familiar with the word stories, right? Your child will be very familiar with writing stories, the typical kind of stories where there are characters, there are dialogues. Now, however, take note that under the new EL syllabus, there is the possibility for composition writing. Out of the 4 possible topics, none of them will actually be the narrative genre. In fact, they are expected to write on topics which are what we call the exposition genres. Now, expositions, I think the familiar term for most of us is what we call the argumentative kind of essays, the discursive kind of essays, So instead of topics like, write about occasions where you felt betrayed by a friend, they will give you topics like, do you think the school uniform should be abolished in school? What are your thoughts on that? These are the kind of topics that your child will expect. Now that you know what are some of the new changes in the new EL syllabus, so how can your child make sense of all of this and secure an edge in the upcoming examinations, all right? Firstly, now that there is the inclusion of visual text, right? A good way for your child is basically to pay careful attention to whatever he or she is reading and viewing. What this means is, what we found particularly useful for students, they could start with advertisements, right? Advertisements are actually a very rich source of both image and the interplay of language, right? Try to decode the meaning behind advertisements. 2 questions your child could ask when he or she views an advertisement. What is the purpose of this text? And who are the targeted audience, right? These 2 questions, though they seem simple, but they will train the critical thinking skills for your child. Okay, and the second thing that your child should pay attention to, remember the game plan that we talked about earlier on, which is to try to secure as high as possible in paper 3 and paper 4, is to actually practice spoken English on a regular basis. Now, this could be having conversations with their friends or at home in English, or it could be as simple as flipping a newspaper open and just finding a short text and practice the pronunciation and articulations, the rhythm and the fluency, as well as the tone and expressiveness that is required to bring out the meaning of the text. So just doing this will give your child an added advantage when it comes to oral reading. And the third and final thing is basically, naturally, they have to start familiarizing themselves with the exposition topics for writing. Okay, what I found very useful for a lot of students is, of course, they have to be kept updated with current affairs. All right, so reading a newspaper is imperative. Okay, besides newspapers, some students find value in Reader's Digest, the BBC English. So all these are good sources of expanding their worldview and world knowledge of exposition topics. Some topics they could pay attention to could be things like technology, school, sports, or basically anything that's related to youth and teenagers. Right? I hope the information has been most beneficial for you, and you have a better idea of how this new EL syllabus changes could impact your child's performance in the upcoming English examinations. Now, what I would like you to do now is to actually go to our website to download our free diagnostic assessments for paper 1 and paper 2 for your child to try if you have not done so. Now, once your child has completed those papers, bring your child down so that we can run through those papers with the child, and we can sort of give him feedback on what are his strengths or her strengths, as well as his areas of need for improvement. So till then, this is Edwin from EduEdge. Take care, I'll see you soon.